Welcome to Love Story with Lisa, where I share romantic audio stories. Today, I'll tell you a new love story. Your Highness, keep your flock in check. Don't let them run wild everywhere. One day someone might shoot them down. I was furious. Cece, Chu Jingyun suddenly took my hand. Let's go boating. He didn't even glance at Lan Qin, only turning to me with that same gentle smile. Just like that, the anger burning inside me fizzled out, replaced by 1,000 question marks. His calm was too calm. Something felt off. The summer palace was surrounded by mountains and water, a perfect place for leisure. One could ride horses, practice archery, or drift across the lake. The lake stretched wide under the sun, its surface glittering. The water was so clear you could see straight to the bottom. Fish swam lazily beneath, and now and then a leaf would drift down, rippling the still surface. I recalled the stunned expression of the boatman when he saw us together. No wonder. A prince and a Wuda bureau commander going boating? Not exactly an everyday sight. The small boat was made of bamboo, the soft sunlight casting down on it, carrying a faint, fresh scent of bamboo in the air. On the small table sat 2 plates of pastries and a jar of wine. The rich aroma of alcohol blended with the faint scent of bamboo, making one almost intoxicated. I never thought I'd be boating with you under such circumstances, Chu Jingyun suddenly said. His voice was gentle, yet it carried an undercurrent of danger, like the wind before a storm. I took a sip of wine. The burning sensation slid down my throat straight into my stomach. Xiang was stung by bees. That's why he suddenly went mad. The incense may be colorless and odorless, but it needs to steep in tea for a quarter of an hour before taking effect. As for Lianxiang drunk, it also requires time to diffuse in a room. Lan Qin, consort de Chen Wanjun. And even your Highness, what roles do you all play in this? As the commander of the Wuda Bureau, investigating this should be as easy as turning one's hand. When does your Highness intend to return to the Summer Palace? Before I could react, Chu Jingyun grabbed my wrist and leaned closer, smiling brightly. Your Highness, could you stop speaking in riddles like we're playing some Three Kingdoms game? Why don't we just get straight to the point? I sighed helplessly. If I move against her now, it will alert that person. You already know? I was slightly surprised. As the princess consort and commander, you should perhaps learn more about the prince's manner. He leaned in closer, pressing me back against the edge of the boat. Fortunately, I had set my saber aside earlier, otherwise my waist might have been done for. Your Highness is quite amusing. Across all of Nanping, no one wants the Wuda Bureau digging into them. They avoid it like the plague, but you? You're practically walking into the fire yourself. I answered calmly, this prince wishing to be close to his wife is only natural. The moment he finished speaking, Chu Jingyun lowered his head and kissed me. Why kiss me? We were having a perfectly normal conversation. Why kiss me? So much for him being calm. Clearly, his mood wasn't as steady as I had thought. One reason I didn't strike him was because I was afraid of capsizing the boat. We were still far from shore. Acting recklessly here would be foolish. But the man before me, his peach blossom eyes were misty. His lips soft and carrying the faint sweetness of pastries. His fingers, gentle yet skillful, slipped into my robe and loosened my belt, startling me. Wait, broad daylight. Your Highness, what exactly are you trying to do? The moment I pushed him away, the boat rocked violently. I yelped and instinctively clung to him. Chu Jingyun naturally wrapped his arms around me, pulling me into his chest. You can't swim? I can. I was just afraid the boat would start rocking in the middle of the lake like in those stories. And yet you invited me boating? Boating is fun. Besides, if you row properly, how would it rock like that? I lifted my head to glare at him, only to meet his gaze, gentle as water. Chu Jingyun lowered his head and softly kissed my forehead. His warm lips made me lose focus for a moment, my eyes closing unconsciously. Fine. I admitted. I like Chu Jingyun. Tell me, who wouldn't? A man as gentle as jade, who checks on you every day, walks the streets with you, remembers what you like to eat, never looks down on your identity as commander of the Wuda Bureau, even worries about your safety. I'm not made of stone. Feelings growing over time is only natural, and if I didn't like him, that day I could have knocked him out and thrown him to Xiangzishi. But I didn't. Perhaps, in some fleeting moment, I had thought of taking advantage of his state under the aphrodisiac and going along with it. After all, hearing someone normally so composed call my name in that low, seductive voice. My mind had gone completely blank, but the moment I saw the guilt and shame on his face, heard him say he would take responsibility, all my illusions shattered. Chu Jingyun doesn't love me, and I don't need his so-called responsibility. Besides, there are far too many women circling around him. I have no desire to throw myself into that mess. Once this matter is resolved, when the Crown Prince marries, I will divorce Chu Jingyun and return to the western frontier, to live my own life. So, Your Highness, why tease me like this? Zhou Jin moved quickly. By the time I returned from the lakeside to the courtyard, he had already been waiting for a while. With several trusted aides captured in succession, the other side was clearly growing anxious, like a cornered beast preparing to make a desperate move while the emperor was still at the summer palace. The autumn hunt is on the 18th of next month, Zhou Jin said, laying out the plan in detail. I think it would be better if Miss Su appears as the princess consort. It will make things easier to handle. Before I could refuse, he continued, you've only shown yourself during interrogations. Not many people know your face. Compared to staying close to the emperor as commander of the Wuda Bureau and alerting the enemy. What other choice do I have besides agreeing? I muttered inwardly, Zhou Jin. Could it be that he was actually one of Chu Jingyun's trusted men? Otherwise, why were the two of them so perfectly in sync, both pushing for Su Jin's to return to the identity of princess consort? In the daytime, I had just refused Chu Jingyun. That very night, I shamelessly went to him and said I wanted to resume my role as princess consort. Fortunately, His Highness remained as calm and gentle as ever. Otherwise, I would have died of embarrassment and fled straight back to Zhou Jin. Even though I had told Chu Jingyun when I would return, he still stood waiting at the entrance of the summer palace early in the morning, diligently playing the role of a husband devoted to his wife. His excessive cooperation gave me a headache. I kept reminding myself, this was just an act. Don't think too much. But the moment I saw him standing in the distance, something inside me cracked, irreparably. The warm morning sunlight bathed everything in a soft glow. Chu Jingyun strode toward me, the restrained longing in his gaze making my breath catch. Amid the exclamations of those around us, he pulled me straight down from the carriage and into his arms. Cece. I missed you. His slightly hoarse voice made my ears burn. Missed me? We just saw each other 2 days ago, Your Highness. There's no need to go this far. You're overacting, I whispered into his ear. Chu Jingyun chuckled teasingly. Cece, if you're not at ease, you can check for yourself. Check what? Not at ease about what? Were we even talking about the same thing? Still dazed, I let him take my hand and lead me back to the courtyard. Along the way, eunuchs and palace maids hurriedly bowed as we passed. Wait. Why were they all blushing? The days passed peacefully, like flowing water, as if nothing had ever happened. Every morning, I accompanied Chu Jingyun to the Empress's palace for breakfast. Afterward, depending on our mood, we might wander through the bamboo forest, go boating, or return to the courtyard to listen to him play the zither. After lunch, he would go to the study to handle affairs of the Guanglu office, while I was free to read, play in the water, or, if I felt like it, head to the racecourse to train Shi Yang. Dinner was usually in the courtyard. At the latest, by the hour of high, Chu Jingyun would urge me to sleep. After all, we had to accompany the Empress again the next morning. The only times I managed to escape early were after palace banquets. That hot-tempered crown prince would always come looking for trouble, forcing me to drink with him again and again until he ended up sprawled under the table. Eventually, I met Xiao Zhenzhen. She was nothing like I had imagined, a lively, adorable girl, with bright clear eyes and charming dimples. Every time she saw me competing in drinking with the crown prince, she would excitedly run over to watch, cheering me on with sparkling admiration, whenever I patted her head in praise. She would beam with delight before running off to tend to the crown prince lying drunk on the ground. Whose child was this, to be so utterly lovable? The Empress had been right. I truly liked Xiao Zhenzhen. As for the crown prince, having such a bright, lively little rabbit of a girl within reach, yet still wearing that perpetually grim expression, honestly, it made me want to drink him under the table until even his parents couldn't recognize him. Speaking of the crown prince, Chen Wanjun naturally came to mind. Though she was consort des niece, her rank wasn't high enough to sit with us. At first, the crown prince kept glancing around restlessly, clearly intending to slip away midway through the banquet to find her. But when he saw Chu Jingyun completely ignoring everyone else, peeling shrimp and feeding me by hand, it was like someone had struck a nerve. Furious, he stormed over to challenge me to a drinking contest. Of course, he lost miserably. From that day on, whether I provoked him or he started trouble first, he seemed to completely forget about Chen Wanjun, focusing only on defeating me in drinking, even though every time he had to be carried back by Xiao Zhenzhen and the palace servants. His determination never wavered, admirable, in a way. As for me, I felt no admiration whatsoever. That reckless, hot-headed man clearly lacked any sense of calculation. He needed a few more hard knocks before he'd grow up. I lay in the bath, staring blankly at the ceiling. After washing up, I changed into my night clothes, dried my hair, and stepped out. Chu Jingyun was still in the same outfit, sitting in the corridor, sipping tea. His hair was loosely tied with a single ribbon, the soft golden lamplight falling over him, making him look like an immortal ready to ascend at any moment. I'm done bathing. You should go as well. Chu Jingyun turned his head and beckoned to me. Frowning slightly, I walked toward him. If not, I truly wouldn't know how to face that upright and dignified Lord Zhou in the days to come. Just as I tried to get up, I realized my entire body ached as if my bones had been shattered, and my throat burned dry like it was on fire. I struggled over to the table and poured myself a cup of tea. Before I could even finish drinking, Chu Jingyun pushed the door open and walked in. Our eyes met once again. I calmly continued drinking my tea. Chu Jingyun hesitated for a long while before finally gritting his teeth and sitting down beside me, putting on an air of forced composure, almost as if I were the one who had drugged and assaulted him. He handed me the porcelain cup in his hand. It felt slightly cool to the touch. When I opened it, I found a bowl of brown-colored soup inside. It had a faint sweetness, not particularly delicious, but not unpleasant either. Back at the prince's manor, I used to drink this soup often. Chu Jingyun drank it as well. I didn't know its exact effects, but it was probably something to calm the nerves and replenish energy. Besides, since it was something he personally made, and considering he had always treated me fairly well, I would obediently finish it every time. So now, when he handed me this bowl of soup, it didn't feel strange at all. The taste was mild. Spoonful after spoonful, I quickly finished more than half the bowl. After remaining silent for quite a while, Chu Jingyun finally spoke cautiously, trying to start a conversation. "Are you all right? My waist aches, my back hurts, my legs are cramping." "Not all right at all. I didn't expect you to be there." "Well, who would have thought there'd be a woman bathing in the inner courtyard of the Wuda Bureau? I was drugged with a sedative mixed into Lingxiang drunk. I really couldn't control myself." "In that case, I should praise your highness for your restraint. An ordinary person under the influence of those two drugs would have lost control on the spot." "Jins. I will take responsibility." Chu Jingyun suddenly grabbed my hand tightly. I turned to look at him in surprise. After hesitating for a moment, I put down the spoon in my hand. "There's no need for that." My voice was so hoarse I couldn't even finish the sentence. I pointed at my throat and waved my hand. "This wasn't the time to talk too much, Jins, don't worry. I am sincere." Facing a Chu Jingyun filled with guilt and self-reproach only made things more troublesome for me. Besides, now wasn't the time to argue with him, so I simply raised my hand to stop him. Seeing that he obediently fell silent and looked at me, I sighed helplessly. I dipped my finger into the tea and wrote on the table. What exactly happened? A flicker of light passed through Chu Jingyun's eyes. He pressed his lips together, blaming himself. I fell into someone else's trap. Prince Jingyun, peerlessly handsome, gentle and refined. His mother was the current empress, his maternal family a prestigious clan. He was the dream lover of countless young ladies in Nanping, and the ideal son-in-law for many noble families. If he hadn't always appeared indifferent to power, there would have been countless people desperately pushing him toward the position of crown prince. But after spending time with him, I came to deeply understand that this man's thoughts were unfathomable, deeper than the darkest ink of the finest inkstone. I was truly curious which fool had a death wish big enough to scheme against someone like him. This incident with Chu Jingyun was indeed highly suspicious. Neither he nor the guards constantly by his side knew how he had been drugged. He had simply followed his usual routine. After dining with the empress, he went to Yunhe courtyard to practice alchemy. But as soon as he stepped through the gate, he felt dizzy. Before he could call for help, he lost consciousness. When he woke up, he found himself lying in an unfamiliar room. Beside him was Chen Wanjun, her clothes disheveled. Chu Jingyun reacted instantly. Without caring whether Chen Wanjun was conscious or not, he knocked her out with a single strike. By then, the drug had begun to take effect. He hurriedly searched for an antidote while sealing his own acupoints. Before he could even process what was happening, noise suddenly erupted outside, someone shouting that a man had broken into a young lady's chamber. Chu Jingyun took a deep breath and immediately leapt out the back window to escape. The crowd chased after him. As his body gradually lost its ability to endure, he ran in a daze and somehow ended up in Zhou Jin's small courtyard. "So, you woke up in Consort des Fanghua Garden?" I wrote the question on paper. Seeing Chu Jingyun nod in confirmation, I continued writing. "Don't you suspect Chen Wanjun? It couldn't be her." He answered without hesitation. I put down the brush and tossed the freshly written paper into the wash basin. The ink quickly dissolved into black within the water. Fine. If he said it wasn't her, then it wasn't her. I already had more than enough on my plate with my own investigation. I had no time to meddle in his affairs as well. Why does this man keep going on and on like that? My heart is pounding so hard it feels like it's about to leap out of my throat. All right, I get it. Hurry up and go bathe. Chu Jingyun planted a loud kiss on my lips before finally letting me go, then dashed into the bathing room like a gust of wind. I stood there frozen for a long while before my mind finally caught up. The man I like actually likes me too. Where did this sudden stroke of luck even come from? I paced back and forth along the corridor, my face flushed red, burning hot. I had to fan myself with my hand to cool down. Only after calming down did I suddenly remember what Chu Jingyun had said. He had liked me for a long time, but we had only known each other for 2 months. Xiao Zhu, however, moved quickly. Originally, Chu Jingyun and I slept in separate beds. Even if we stretched out our arms, we couldn't touch each other. We had always kept to our own sides. But now, forget distance. She had directly cleared away all my bedding. I turned the entire room upside down and couldn't find a single spare set. That girl really works fast. Sighing helplessly, I grabbed my outer robe, ready to go find her and ask where she had hidden everything. But the moment I turned around, I saw Chu Jingyun pushing the door open and walking in. He looked at me, then tilted his head toward the neatly arranged bedding on the bed, puzzled. It's already so late. Why aren't you going to sleep? You sleep first. I'll go get another set of bedding. Why? He blinked. Why? And he still asks why. There's only one set of bedding. How are we supposed to sleep? As I spoke, I stepped toward the door. Chu Jingyun grabbed my hand. A gentle smile on his lips. We are husband and wife. Sleeping under the same quilt, isn't that only natural? Your Highness, what exactly are you trying to do? When Chu Jingyun is fully conscious, he's honestly terrifying. That time before, when he was under the influence of aphrodisiacs, I endured mostly because I liked him, and partly because my mind was too muddled to think clearly. In short, my mindset back then was, endure it and it'll pass. After all, it was someone I liked. I absolutely couldn't hit him. I was like an elder in the family tolerating a child's mischief. There wasn't even a trace of shyness. But this time, it was different. Those peach blossom eyes staring at me were filled with intense emotions I couldn't understand. Like rising tides surging in his chest, pulling me in without resistance, his movements were both gentle and forceful. He kept calling my name, whispering endless confessions. For the first time in my life, I felt so embarrassed I wanted to dig a hole and hide in it. Chu Jingyun. Can you stop talking? Say a little less. In the end, I couldn't take it anymore. Seizing the moment when he was distracted, I grabbed his shoulders, flipped him over, and pinned him down beneath me. Then I frowned, carefully studying the man before me, his beauty almost unreal. I hadn't noticed before. But when Prince Jingyun gets intense, he's no less overwhelming than the Crown Prince. I'm just too happy. Chu Jingyun supported my waist with one hand, and with the other, he took my hand and pressed it against his face. It feels like I'm dreaming. If you keep talking like this, you'll be dreaming forever. Even as I said that, my hand still followed his lead, gently caressing his breathtaking face. Suddenly, Chu Jingyun sat up, startling me into instinctively leaning back. He pulled me into his arms, burying his face against my chest. What are you doing now? His soft breath brushed across me, cool and light, yet it made my face flush instantly. As if I had eaten chili, I hurried to push him away, but his next words froze me mid-motion. 10 years. The longing has been far too long. There's so much I want to tell you. 10 years, I frowned. Could it be? Prince Jingyun had mistaken me for someone else. My only memory from 10 years ago was the blade of an enemy, and my mother collapsing before me. I know you've forgotten, Chu Jingyun said softly, a trace of grievance in his voice. The imperial physicians said that what happened back then affected you too deeply. There are many things you no longer remember. For some reason, I felt a flicker of guilt. I reached out and gently ruffled his hair. I'm sorry. That day, I went to Wenyuan Pavilion to look for some books. On my way back, I suddenly heard the sound of a zither. It was the most beautiful melody I had ever heard. I became curious about who was playing it, so I followed the sound. The one playing was a young girl I had never seen before. She was younger than me, yet her beauty was like that of an immortal. She sat alone by the lakeside, her eyes lowered, her expression distant, like she didn't belong to this mortal world at all. As Chu Jingyun spoke of the past, his face softened, his eyes filled with warmth. Even though those memories had completely vanished from my mind, from his description, it really did sound like me. At first, I wanted to leave. She didn't look like someone easy to approach. I thought if I disturbed her playing, I'd definitely be scolded. But just then, a small bird flew up beside her, and the music stopped. She turned her head, and saw me. Our eyes met. Her eyes were clear like water, calm like a still well, without the slightest ripple. And then, she suddenly smiled. She picked up a plate of lotus pastries and said to me, "Do you want some? They're very delicious, on this earth." Where would you even find an immortal? Hearing about my own past like this only made me feel strangely embarrassed. Chu Jingyun smiled brightly at me, then lowered his head and gently kissed my fingertips. "There are no immortals in this world," he said softly, "but there is a girl I love, beautiful like one." Back then, Chu Jingyun was still just a young boy. He could only stand there frozen, his heart pounding wildly. That little girl seemed almost magical. From her small box, she took out another plate of pastries and enthusiastically offered them to him. "What about red bean rolls? I also have lotus cakes, mung bean pastries, and steamed buns with red bean filling. Everything is delicious. And there's chilled green plum juice too. Do you want to try it? Number 1 cup is enough." Seeing her bright, cheerful face, Chu Jingyun couldn't bear to refuse. He walked over, sat down, accepted a cup of green plum juice, and a plate of pastries. The little girl played many melodies for him. There were bold and exotic Persian tunes, soft and lingering melodies of Jiangnan, and even mysterious island songs from the eastern seas. Things he had never heard before. "How do you know so many songs?" Chu Jingyun asked, lifting his cup. He looked at her, her mouth stuffed with lotus cake, her cheeks puffed up. The ethereal, fairy-like aura had faded by half, replaced by an overwhelming cuteness. "Because I like playing the zither," she said proudly. "One day, I'll become the most famous musician in the world." "Do you think I play well?" "Very well." Chu Jingyun nodded seriously. Then, as if that wasn't enough, he added, "Better than anyone I've ever heard." The little girl beamed and handed him a red bean roll. "You've got good taste." Just as Chu Jingyun reached out to take it, she suddenly grabbed his hand. Startled, he instinctively tried to pull back, but she pressed her hand against his palm, then looked up at him seriously. "I think you have talent. Do you want to learn from me? You'll teach me?" "Yes." But I'm about to travel far away. When I come back, I'll teach you. I guarantee you'll become a renowned musician in Nanping, no, famous across the whole world. Her eyes sparkled like countless stars in the quiet night sky. Chu Jingyan felt as if a warm current flowed through his heart. He smiled softly and held her hand. All right. I'll wait for you. But what he waited for was news that the emperor had been ambushed. The little girl was gravely injured. She lost her mother, and part of her memory. She no longer recognized him. Chu Jingyun was devastated. He wanted to go to her side, to comfort that girl, who looked like an immortal when she didn't smile, yet was irresistibly adorable when she did. But she was no longer in Xianan City. After asking around everywhere, he finally learned that she had returned to her home in the western region. From then on, years passed without any news. By the time he heard of her again, she had already become the deputy commander of the Wuda Bureau, dealing with bandits and tyrants in the west. He knew she wanted revenge for her mother, so Chu Jingyun began working in the Guanglu office, using his position to openly access case files and clues, while secretly investigating for her. He knew everyone wished to keep her away from this dangerous, murky world, but her personality was too stubborn. No one could persuade her, so he thought, if he couldn't stop her, then he would stand beside her as a silent ally. After all, he would never let that girl bear everything alone. Which novel did you, the male lead, just walk out of? Listening to Chu Jingyun's story, I started having illusions. This kind of secretly protecting the one you love from behind trope. Every time I read it, it made me so frustrated I nearly died. People who like someone but refuse to say it out loud deserve to be single forever. Will you die if you just say I like you? Is it really that hard? But Ajin, you liked me for so long and didn't say anything either. Chu Jingyun looked at me aggrieved, using a form of address no one had ever used for me before. That's different. I glared at him, anger flaring up. I carry a blood feud. And you? A prince admired by the whole world, tangled in a love triangle. Even marrying me was forced by circumstances. The people around you don't like me. I'd have to be insane to confess to you. I shot him an annoyed look. Only Xiao Zhu had always hoped that Chu Jingyun and I would live in harmony. Mei Qian was devoted solely to her duties. So long as no one bothered her, she wouldn't care even if the prince married 10 wives. Male or female, but Lan Qin and Zhu Shu, they probably wished they could throw me out of the prince's manor immediately. Xiang Zishi is in charge of the kitchen. Every meal is made to suit Chu Jingyun's tastes. Even the pastries are bland, low in sugar and oil. Ever since Chu Jingyun returned to the Guanglu office, she has never once stepped into the kitchen to cook for me. That silly Xiao Zhu thought I didn't know. The snacks I eat every day are all made by her. As for Lan Qin, ever since I married into the prince's manor, as long as Chu Jingyun came within 10 steps of me, I could feel the killing intent pouring out of her gaze. This time, perhaps because of consort secretly drugging someone, or because she misunderstood my relationship with Xiang Zishi, thinking it ambiguous, she decided to strike as a warning. If not for Chu Jingyun's sake, I would have long since taught these two what it means to offend the deputy commander of the Wuda Bureau, Ajin. Chu Jingyun called softly, "Speak properly." What is it? Ajin, do you want to try this position? Try what? Can't you see I'm still angry here? But then again, Chu Jingyun and Chu Jingshan truly are brothers, when it comes to love. Both fall at first sight. Xiang Zishi still liked sitting by the steps of the Imperial Medical Institute, eating noodles. When I stood in front of him, he hurriedly slurped his soup. "Fourth miss, next time, Don't disturb people while they're eating. Don't flatter yourself. I'm here to see Xiaonyang. I strode into the courtyard. Xiang Zishi followed behind me, still holding his bowl. What's the difference between looking for me and looking for my wife? Your wife can bathe with me, sleep with me. Can you? Xiang Zishi obediently shut his mouth. Xiaonyang was extremely warm when I suddenly came to chat. She listened patiently, while Xiang Zishi stood nearby brewing medicine. Pricking up his ears to eavesdrop, still, something bothered me. What exactly is going on between him and Chen Wanjun? And Lan Qin, and Zhu Shu too? The world is full of things that make no sense. I cracked sunflower seeds as I spoke, my tone casual, as if it had nothing to do with me. If you want to know so much, why not just ask him directly? Xiaonyang lifted her tea and looked at me. This doesn't seem like your style. No, you misunderstand. I don't suspect Chu Jingyun. I'm just curious what those people are thinking. Chen Wanjuan's recent actions are clearly pushing herself into a dead end. Neither Chu Jingyun nor Chu Jingshan will choose her. In the end, she might not even secure the position of secondary consort, and could even be harmed by consort Da. She was never brainless to begin with, so why act so foolish now? And Lan Qin and Zhu Shu. Even if they drive me out of the manor, Chu Jingyun can still marry someone else. And that someone else will never be them. Lan Qin, as a guard, colluded with outsiders to drug him. Zhu Shu, in charge of the kitchen, slipped contraceptives into the food. Do they really think Chu Jingyun knows nothing? Because of love, Xiaonyang said lightly. Love can make people lose their minds. Isn't the man over there brewing medicine a perfect example? Her words made Xiang Zishi freeze. He awkwardly turned his head to look at us. That was long ago, he muttered. Why bring it up again? True enough. Back then, you even dared challenge me to a fight for her. In this life, I never imagined I'd be treated as a love rival by another man. Xiang Zishi clutched his chest, his face flushing as if he were about to cough up blood. Trembling, he set the bowl of medicine on the table. Drink it. Drink it quickly and leave. How dare you treat your superior like this? Shouldn't you be asking how you can bear to treat me like this? At this rate, sooner or later, you'll lose me. I stirred the steaming bowl of medicine with a spoon. In short, the autumn hunt in 3 days will be the aiding moment. After arranging everything properly, it's time to bring this 10-year-long matter to an end. What's in that medicine? Xiang Zishi asked nervously when he saw me staring at it. I blew on it lightly and took a sip. What's it for? To replenish qi and calm the mind. The taste and color are almost identical to the medicine Chu Jingyun usually makes for you. If there's any difference, I added, it's that yours is thinner and hotter. His is thicker. Anything else? Nothing important, Xiang Zishi hesitated before answering. But it can counteract the effects of contraceptive medicine. After discovering that contraceptives had been mixed into my daily meals, I never exposed Zhu Shu. After all, Chu Jingyun and I always ate together. She wouldn't dare use a strong dose. The effect was brief. It wore off within a few hours and barely affected the body. Later, when Chu Jingyun returned to the Guanglu office, I stopped eating at the manor altogether. Without him there, Zhu Shu might lose her mind and try to poison me outright. Back then, I never thought Chu Jingyun liked me. The main reason was precisely this. I knew that Chu Jingyun was fully aware of what those people were doing. And if he chose not to interfere, it meant he didn't want to involve himself in it at all. Even though he treated me very well, I always felt there was an invisible boundary between us. That was why, that day, I went to drink contraceptive medicine. I thought Chu Jingyun didn't want too many entanglements with me. But it turned out that while I wasn't paying attention, this man had already quietly taken care of everything. With a dark expression, I stormed back to the prince's manor, ready to confront him. You people of the manor, feeding me all sorts of nonsense every day. What, do you take me for a test subject? But the moment I stepped through the door, before I could even call out, a puff of smoke hit my face. I opened my mouth, but didn't even have time to cry for help. Darkness swallowed my vision, and I lost consciousness, so it seemed. Love really could make a person lose their mind. Even someone like me had fallen into such a simple trap. When I woke up and saw myself lying in an unfamiliar room, with Chu Jingyun beside me, I immediately understood. They were using the same trick they once used on Chu Jingyun. Against me, no, something wasn't quite right. My limbs were completely immobile. Clearly, I had been given a muscle-weakening drug. Smart. They even learned from their last failure. Chu Jingyun suddenly began breathing heavily. He pressed his temples and woke as well, his face flushed red. Something was clearly wrong. When he saw me, he froze for a moment. Why are you in my room? Obviously, I've been set up. Set up? Set up for what? His gaze gradually lost focus. He unconsciously began removing his clothes. Why is it so hot? Seeing the incense burner nearby releasing faint blue smoke, I staggered to my feet, grabbed the teapot on the table, and poured it over the burner. But the waves of burning heat surging through my body told me it was useless. Sure enough, the door was locked. And I didn't have the strength to break it down. I turned to call Chu Jingyun for help, only to see him already walking toward me, muttering something under his breath. Realizing things were going wrong, I tried to retreat, but he caught up in an instant and pinned me to the ground. I struggled, trying to push him away. No matter how much I shouted, he gave no response. This bastard had fallen under the drug's effects fast. His burning hot hand began sliding beneath my clothes. The drug clouded my mind, pushing me toward the brink of losing control. Without hesitation, I bit my own tongue to force myself back to clarity. Then I kicked him away and pulled a hairpin from my head, stabbing it hard into my own arm. By the time people burst in from outside, the entire room was filled with the stench of blood. The Emperor's face was dark. The Empress was anxious. Even Consort Da's usual smug smile froze in place. They had come to catch an affair, not to witness a scene like a massacre. Chu Jingyun was tied to the ground, half conscious from the drug, groaning incoherently. As for me, I didn't even need to look to know how terrible I must appear. Blood streamed from my neck down to my arm, soaking my clothes. Leaning against the table, I held the incense burner tightly. No one ever told you? I said coldly. A trick used twice stops working. Before losing consciousness, the last thing I saw was Chu Jingyun, panic-stricken, rushing toward me without a second thought, fainting twice in a single day. Truly beyond what the body can bear. The most frustrating part was that this time, I missed an entire grand play. For 10 years, I had painstakingly tracked down the culprit hiding in the shadows, only for them to take advantage of my unconsciousness and clean everything up. The assassin from 10 years ago wasn't targeting the Emperor at all. The true targets were the Crown Prince and the other princes. The eldest and second princes had long devoted themselves to the frontiers. The fourth prince, Chu Siyuan, had been obsessed with astrology since childhood, the only one standing in Prince An's way. Were the crown prince and Chu Jingyun, consort, colluded with her maternal family, intending to eliminate Chu Jingshan first. But she didn't expect my mother to discover the plot, so she arranged for Chen Wanjun to drive a wedge between the brothers. First, Chen Wanjun approached Chu Jingshan through a riddle game, helping him win the goldfish lantern. Then she staged a lost encounter to meet Chu Jingyun. Consort De even bribed Lan Qin. Learning that Chu Jingyun had long been attached to a girl skilled in music, she stole the portrait of that girl and had Chen Wanjun imitate her, and sure enough, during that lantern festival night, she successfully caught Chu Jingyun's attention. Consort De thought her plan had worked perfectly. Part of that confidence came from Chen Wanjun herself. For reasons unknown, became convinced that both brothers had deeply fallen for her. On one side, she kept Chu Jingshan hanging. On the other, she flirted with Chu Jingyun. She even agonized over which one to choose. As for that, I truly had nothing to say. Time passed, and the crown prince's marriage to Chao Jingjin finally approached. Under Chen Wanjun's instigation, Chu Jingshan, living up to expectations, made a declaration: if the virtuous prince does not take a wife, then I won't marry anyone either. Anyone hearing that would think he was secretly in love with his own brother. Consort De's side was overjoyed. They were certain the two brothers would turn against each other, perhaps even anger the emperor, and yet, Chu Jingyun did not argue a single word. Instead, he cooperated completely and married me. After the wedding, rumors of the prince and his consort being deeply in love spread everywhere. Only then did Consort De grow restless, taking advantage of the emperor's stay at the summer palace to escape the heat. She brought Chen Wanjun along to deal with me, but when Chen Wanjun finally met me, she only grew more smug. She believed Chu Jingyun had married me because we resembled each other, that I was merely her substitute. How laughable! If anyone was imitating someone, it was Chen Wanjun imitating me. And the truth was, she wasn't even qualified to be a substitute, because Chu Jingyun had never liked her. At most, he treated her like a younger sister. And not even a particularly close one. The rebellion staged during the autumn hunt must have been quite a spectacle. Unfortunately, I could only piece it together from Xiao Zhu's vivid retelling. Missing the chance to personally kill my enemy left me with an unexpected emptiness. 10 years of planning, all ending in a single moment. Truly, a thunderous beginning and a pitiful end. Zhu Shu was reassigned to serve as a palace maid under the empress. Lan Qin had her martial arts crippled and was handed over to Zhou Jin for handling. Consort De's maternal Qin family. Some were executed, others exiled. Everything was dealt with cleanly. Only Chu Jingyun was nowhere to be seen. 3 days passed after I woke up, and I still hadn't seen him. On the 4th day, Chu Jingshan came to visit. Having lost too much blood, I was still weak. I leaned against the headboard, eyes closed, resting. Chu Jingshan stormed in with great momentum, but the moment he saw my condition, all his aggression vanished. Why you? Are you all right? Just a bit pale. Nothing serious. I didn't want to scare him, so I answered calmly. He let out a breath of relief, his expression turning awkward. That day, I have to thank you. You ended up like this because of me. I never expected Chen Wanjun would dare deceive me. She clearly looked like a fairy. How could she do something like that? He suddenly stopped, took a deep breath, then looked at me seriously. Su Jins, you're a good person. From now on, you're my good brother. Emperor, are you really not worried and trusting your empire to someone like this? Ah. All right. I honestly didn't know how to respond. I could only nod blankly. Since we're brothers now, I won't beat around the bush, he continued. Su Jins, do you like my fifth brother? I do. Then why didn't you ask where he went? What's the point of asking? So you can make up some excuse to comfort me? My overly calm attitude clearly surprised him. We're not making things up. Fifth brother really has something to deal with. In a few days. He'll be back. Don't worry, just focus on recovering. Stop smiling like that. Chu Jingshan was completely defeated by the affection in my eyes. Your Highness the Crown Prince. Do you realize that what you're doing is basically delivering your own head to the enemy? What a pig of a teammate. I thought I was already used to matters of life and death. I thought I was mentally prepared, but when I saw Chu Jingyun lying silently on the bed, my mind went completely blank. Those gentle peach blossom eyes were tightly shut. His breathing was so faint it seemed it could stop at any moment. To capture the true culprit who harmed my mother back then. Chu Jingyun had been poisoned. For 3 days, every renowned physician the emperor summoned had been helpless. He looked as if he were merely asleep. Yet also as if he would never wake again. The empress stayed by his side day and night, personally caring for him. She fed him medicine spoonful by spoonful, even though most of it couldn't be swallowed. Still, she refused to give up, but if he did not wake, even with ginseng in his mouth, he would not last 3 months. 4th Mississippi, it is my incompetence. Xiang Zishi, who had been running back and forth between us, now devoted himself entirely to caring for Chu Jingyun after I woke. Once a refined scholar, he now looked haggard, unkempt beard, bloodshot eyes, filled with guilt. You're not the Jade Emperor, I said, patting his shoulder. Do you really think you can bring the dead back to life? Without me needing to ask, Xiang Zishi immediately explained Chu Jingyun's condition in detail. At this point, there was only one way left: force the culprit to hand over the antidote. I told Xiang Zishi to go clean himself up, bring his tools, and summon Xiao Yang. The 3 of us quickly prepared, then headed straight into the imperial dungeon, where the culprit was being held. This official has failed in his duty, the guard reported. The prisoner is determined to die. No matter what we do, he refuses to speak. Chu Jingyun, do you know, someone so determined to die like him usually falls into one of 2 kinds. First, there is nothing left in this world that binds his heart. When the heart grows cold, death becomes the only wish. Second, there is someone he cares about deeply, so deeply that he would rather die to protect them. I lifted my teacup and noticed the assassin's fingers trembling slightly. Tell me, I said calmly, which kind are you? I don't know, he stammered. These are the findings the Wuda Bureau gathered over the past 3 days. His background, his family. Please have a look, Your Highness. Zhou Jin handed me a thick stack of documents. After flipping through a few pages, I closed it. That's enough. Leave the rest to me. Lord Zhou, please guard the entrance. Don't let any honored guests see what they shouldn't. In this world, there has never been a mouth I couldn't pry open. I used every cruel method at my disposal to break him. Beside me, Xiang Zishi worked tirelessly to keep him alive, healing him just enough so he couldn't die, yet not enough to escape the pain. Living became torment, dying, impossible. Only when the fury and hatred in his eyes slowly faded into numbness did I hand him a dose of Lang Xiang Zui, the very drug his kind favored. Then I ordered several strong men forward. His curses turned foul, vicious, desperate. Watching the despair in his eyes, I said coldly, Your name, Qian Quanren. it doesn't suit you. A man who forges blades should have something sharper, don't you think? Xiang Zishi replied with something, but I didn't catch it. A loud buzzing filled my head, like boiling water being poured into my skull. I pressed my temples, signaling them to stop. Qian Quanren, I continued slowly, Princeton has already been stripped of his title and confined in the prince's manor. Tell me. If he saw you like this, do you think he could still go on living? His eyes widened in terror. No. Princeton knows nothing. Please don't tell him. And what good does begging me do? I smiled faintly. You should be begging yourself. I don't know how many days passed. I stared blankly at the thin beam of light filtering through the small vent overhead. Dust floated in the damp, blood-soaked air. Your Highness, he's fainted again. The guard lowered his whip. Qian Quanren lay collapsed on the ground, his body drenched in blood. Zhou Jin handed me a thick stack of documents. After flipping through a few pages, I closed it. That's enough. Leave the rest to me. Lord Zhou, please guard the entrance. Don't let any honored guests see what they shouldn't. In this world, there has never been a mouth I couldn't pry open. I used every cruel method at my disposal to break him. Beside me, Xiang Zishi worked tirelessly to keep him alive, healing him just enough so he couldn't die, yet not enough to escape the pain. Living became torment, dying, impossible. Only when the fury and hatred in his eyes slowly faded into numbness did I hand him a dose of Lang Xiang Zui, the very drug his kind favored. Then I ordered several strong men forward. His curses turned foul, vicious, desperate. Watching the despair in his eyes, I said coldly, your name, Qian Quanren, it doesn't suit you. A man who forges blades should have something sharper, don't you think? Xiang Zishi replied with something, but I didn't catch it. A loud buzzing filled my head, like boiling water being poured into my skull. I pressed my temples, signaling them to stop. Qian Quanren, I continued slowly, Princeton has already been stripped of his title and confined in the prince's manor. Tell me. If he saw you like this, do you think he could still go on living? His eyes widened in terror. No. Princeton knows nothing. Please don't tell him. And what good does begging me do? I smiled faintly. You should be begging yourself. I don't know how many days passed. I stared blankly at the thin beam of light filtering through the small vent overhead. Dust floated in the damp, blood-soaked air. Your Highness, he's fainted again. The guard lowered his whip. Qian Quanren lay collapsed on the ground, his body drenched in blood. Throw it here, I said, grabbing a bucket of medicinal liquid and splashing it over him. He coughed violently, shivering. Where is this? His hollow, despairing eyes fixed on me, as if begging for death. I crouched down, extending a finger to his forehead, pressing just hard enough that he couldn't move. Our eyes met. What am I doing? The buzzing in my head grew louder, twisting into screams, into manic laughter. My ears rang. I shook my head violently, trying to regain clarity. The world blurred. Warped. Who am I? Where am I? What am I supposed to do? Kill him, Ajin. That voice, familiar, gentle, like the sound of a zither. In an instant, the chaos in my mind fell silent. The world snapped back into focus. I realized my left hand was gripping Qian Quanren's forehead, pinning him down, while my right hand held a dagger, its blade less than an inch from his throat. Chu Jingyun. I turned, and saw him rushing toward me. I wanted to ask him how he was. Whether the poison had been fully cured. why he wasn't resting properly and had come here instead, but before I could speak, he pulled me into his arms, holding me tightly. Ajin. His voice was hoarse, trembling. I lifted my head, glaring toward the doorway. Didn't I say no one was allowed in? I couldn't stop him, Zhou Jin said helplessly, already ordering the guards to clean up. I stood there, letting Chu Jingyun hold me. Just as my gaze brushed past Qian Quanren being dragged away, Chu Jingyun pressed my head into his chest. Don't look. What? I asked instinctively. I said, don't look. His tone was firm. I blinked in confusion, staring at him. What do you mean, don't look? That state of his, you are not allowed to look. It took me a moment to understand. After days of torture, Qian Quanren was barely covered in rags. His entire body was a grotesque mess of wounds and blood. It's fine, I said calmly. I'm used to it. Interrogating criminals is my job. Those wounds may look terrifying, but they won't kill him. I thought he was simply unsettled by the blood and tried to reassure him, perhaps even show off a little, but his expression only darkened further, anger flickering in his eyes. Your Highness, why are you? The rest of my words were swallowed by his lips, warm, firm, carrying the faint bitterness of medicine, even in a place like the Imperial Dungeon, reeking of blood, with Wuda bureau guards moving all around. Princeton still chose to kiss me. Zhou Jin was still standing awkwardly by the door. This was hardly the right place for such things. Only when Zhou Jin couldn't hold back anymore and coughed twice did Chu Jingyun finally, reluctantly, pull away. Has the poison in your body been completely cured? It has. No side effects. Xiang Zishi said I'm just a bit weak. I'll recover after some rest. I stared at him, looking him up and down before hesitating. But I feel like something's not quite right with you. I raised a finger and pointed at his head. Chu Jingyun's face darkened. If not, then why would you act like that? Because I don't like it. He turned his face away abruptly, even his ears flushing red. I grew even more confused. Don't like what? What man wouldn't feel uncomfortable seeing his own wife pinning another man down, with his clothes in disarray? He shot back quickly, clearly flustered. To be honest, I was this close to killing him just now. Did I really have to pin him down like that? And look at the state he was in, completely indecent. Your Highness, this is the Imperial Dungeon. We are responsible for interrogating prisoners, not dressing them properly. Have you ever seen a prisoner being interrogated while fully dressed? For once, Chu Jingyun, who had never lost an argument in his life, was completely silenced by me. Just as I was snorting smugly, I suddenly noticed Zhou Jin looking at me with a rather sympathetic expression. Wait a moment, Chu Jingyun just said he was jealous. Faced with a jealous husband, shouldn't I be comforting him instead of arguing? Su Jins, could you not lose your head at such a crucial moment? Amid the startled exclamations around us, Chu Jingyun scooped me up and carried me out of the Imperial Dungeon. I had intended to say something to salvage the situation, but one look at his dark expression, and I wisely shut my mouth. Fortunately, he still retained a shred of reason. As soon as we left the dungeon, he set me down, but before I could even sigh in relief, he grabbed my hand again and strode straight toward Dingya Pavilion. A storm was brewing. I could feel it. I silently prayed that no fool would cross his path at a time like this. Unfortunately, there are always such people in this world. Seeing Chu Jingshan pacing back and forth in the main hall, I instantly felt the urge to disappear into a corner. As expected, the moment he saw Chu Jingyun, he rushed forward enthusiastically. completely oblivious to the strange tension in the air. Ayun, you just woke up. Why did you run off already? Father Emperor and Mother Empress are worried sick. They both said you should rest a few more days. If you wanted to find Jinx, you could have just said so. If you were worried, I could have gone to find her for you. Chu Jingyun frowned slightly. I frantically gestured at Chu Jingshan, silently begging him to shut up and run. But clearly, he didn't understand me. In fact, he became even more enthusiastic. Oh right. Jinx, you're really impressive. Even Zhou Jin couldn't pry that stubborn man's mouth open. How did you make him hand over the antidote? And who would have thought you're actually an officer of the Wuda Bureau? Your riding and archery must be pretty good too. Right? We should have a match sometime. Jinx, what's wrong with your eyes? Only then did Chu Jingshan notice me blinking frantically at him. That last sentence of his nearly made me cough up blood. I rubbed my temples, let out a long sigh, and patted his shoulder. Your Highness the Crown Prince. You're truly a rare talent. Huh? Jinx, why are you suddenly praising me? That feels a bit strange. Chu Jingyun finally spoke, cutting him off. Royal brother. His peach blossom eyes curved into a gentle smile, blooming like flowers. Please go inform Father Emperor and Mother Empress that they need not worry. I'm a bit tired and need to rest. Ah, right. I'll go now. You two take care, don't fall ill again. The Crown Prince gave a serious nod before striding away with great vigor. I watched his retreating figure and couldn't help sighing. With a brother like that, are you sure it's safe to entrust him with the affairs of the nation? He's just a bit childish. When it comes to handling state matters, there's nothing to worry about. Well, if his own family wasn't concerned. It certainly wasn't my place to be. Pretending nothing had happened, I stretched lazily and prepared to slip away. I'm exhausted. I'm going to bathe. You should get some rest first. Ajin. His clear voice carried a faint smile, stopping me in my tracks. I slowly turned around. Chu Jingyun was sitting there, propping his chin on one hand, smiling at me. All right, I understand. I walked over, grabbing his hand and shaking it lightly, smiling in a placating manner. From now on, when I interrogate prisoners, I'll be careful. I absolutely won't look at other men, and definitely won't have any physical contact with them. In my eyes, they're just lumps of flesh anyway. And flesh doesn't have a gender, so I didn't pay attention before. I smiled sweetly, coaxing him, so don't be angry anymore, all right? A faint flush crept onto Chu Jingyun's face. He covered his mouth and coughed lightly, and the gloom that had weighed on him suddenly lifted, his mood visibly improving. From now on, you must be more careful. I promise, I'll sincerely admit my mistakes. As for whether I'll fix them, we'll talk about that later. And what about Royal Brother? Since when did you two become so close? He even calls you Jinx. I had finally managed to soothe this jar of vinegar, and now it was tipping over again. But honestly, I was completely innocent in this matter. After all, the Crown Prince was just a fool. Once he realized his first love had played him, he suddenly decided I was a good person, and even declared that from now on, I was his sworn brother. Sure enough, Chu Jingyun let out a quiet sigh. Resting his head against my shoulder, he stayed silent for a long moment before suddenly rubbing his head against me. That's why I tried everything before to keep him away from you. Why? Because he's clingy. Chu Jingyun straightened, took both my hands in his, and said seriously, "It seems I must hurry and get him married. Otherwise, he'll keep circling around you all day." That's a bit exaggerated. Truthfully, I quite liked Chao Jinjin. If Chu Jingshan remained this clueless, I had even considered sabotaging the marriage. My family still had 2 outstanding unmarried men. There was no need to let such an adorable girl marry someone who didn't love her. What are you thinking about? Chu Jingyun leaned close to my ear and whispered. I shivered uncontrollably and instinctively tried to push him away. Nothing. I need to go bathe. I stink all over. Chu Jingyun laughed, then suddenly bent down, hoisted me over his shoulder, and carried me toward the bath chamber. What are you doing? Didn't you say you're still weak? Chu Jingyun. Put me down. Your image is collapsing. Early summer, 3rd year of Xing, Raoxing era. After more than a month of relentless work at the Wuda Bureau, we finally closed the case. Dragging my exhausted body back to the prince's manor, I didn't even bother eating. I fell straight asleep and didn't wake until noon the next day. Chu Jingyun had the day off. Dressed in light blue robes, he leaned against the table reading. The moment he saw me awake, he smiled warmly. The weather is nice today. Shall we go to Taoran Pavilion for some tea? That smile of his nearly dazzled me senseless. I nodded absent-mindedly. The breeze by the lake was still a little cool, so the shopkeeper had hung a silk curtain at the entrance to block the wind. Wrapped lazily in a fur-lined cloak, I listened idly to a group of young ladies at the next table discussing a rather peculiar topic. What if I marry a man I don't love? I took a bite of red bean pastry, listened for a while, then couldn't help chuckling softly, thinking about it now. When I married you back then, I also married someone I didn't love. Chu Jingyun had been listening to the music. Hearing this, he turned to me, slightly bewildered, his peach blossom eyes blinking gently. A soft early summer breeze brushed through his hair. He looked like an immortal who had fallen into the mortal world. Hearing the conversation from the next table, he quickly understood what I meant. The corner of his lips curved into a faint smile. Then Miss Su must have felt quite wronged. It wasn't so bad. I didn't like anyone at the time anyway. Marrying anyone would have been the same. Besides, marrying a prince and becoming the principal consort is quite an experience. Not everyone gets that chance. Seeing my carefree smile, Chu Jingyun set down his teacup and frowned slightly. Madam. I'm jealous. Jealous of what? We've already had 2 children. What more do you want? I took another bite of pastry. The damp towel on the table had gone cold, so Chu Jingyun called someone to replace it with a warm one and add charcoal beneath the teapot. He took my hand, carefully wiping the crumbs from my fingertips. Madam, whenever you're busy, you don't return to the manor for an entire month. Yin Xian and Nian Gu miss you terribly. Every day they ask to go find their mother. His tone was pitiful, almost aggrieved. I knew I had neglected my family this time because of work. Just as I was about to say something comforting, Chu Jingyun suddenly held my hand and leaned closer, whispering. Madam, if you feel guilty, you can make it up to me. Make it up? How? Something about this felt off. I tried to pull my hand back. Chu Jingyun blinked, smiling like a blooming flower. He brought my fingertip to his lips, his tongue brushing lightly against it. Sleep with me. This man had grown more and more unrestrained over the years, relying on his looks to do whatever he pleased. Back then, I must have been blind to think he was a gentle, upright gentleman. Just as I was about to punch him to bring him back to his senses, he suddenly changed the subject. Madam, you haven't taken much leave in the past half year. Now that the weather is warmer, how about we take a few days off? We can travel north. Enjoy the flowers, and visit Father Emperor and Mother Empress along the way. After abdicating, Chu Jisheng had retired with the Empress, traveling freely. Even when they returned, they lived in a simple house on the northern outskirts, leading a peaceful, ordinary life. What are you planning now? Chu Jingyun leaned close to my ear again, his warm breath brushing against my skin, making me shiver. Of course, leave Yin Xian and Nian Gu in their care. That way, Madam can properly make it up to me. Shut up. I grabbed a piece of pastry and stuffed it straight into his mouth. Chu Jingyun puffed up his cheeks, his peach blossom eyes shimmering faintly with moisture as he looked at me. Then. Tomorrow I'll go ask Zhou Jin for half a month's leave. It should be fine, right? There shouldn't be any issues at the Guanglu office, right? No problem, I replied. Chu Jingyun nodded rapidly like pounding garlic, hastily swallowing the pastry in his mouth. I patted his back and poured him a cup of tea. Drink, so you don't choke. As he sipped the tea, he kept looking at me. Jin. This time, let's have a daughter. Stop daydreaming in broad daylight. I shoved another piece of pastry into his mouth. At the prince's manor, we already had 2 children. I had once married a man I did not love, but now, it seemed I was about to bear him a 3rd child, hopefully this time. It would be a girl. The end. If you enjoyed the story, don't forget to like and subscribe to Love Stories with Lisa for more stories. Thank you so much.